Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us this morning for our next installment of our Building Blocks workshops. Today's topic is construction during the contract. I would like to introduce our presenter today. His name is Ron Brown. He is the president of RS Brown Consulting LLC, and he is one of IDOT's supportive services consultants. A few housekeeping notes. Please keep yourself muted and your video off during this presentation. I ask that everyone enter their questions into the chat and we will answer those throughout the presentation. This session will be recorded and provided to firms in a follow-up email along with additional helpful resources. And there will be a short survey at the end of the presentation. We ask everyone who attends to please take the time to fill that survey out and let us know how we can improve or future ideas for workshops. For the agenda today, we've gone over introductions and some housekeeping. We will go over IDOT's goals, supportive services and resources. We'll get into the meat of our workshop today for construction during the contract. We will answer questions and answers throughout the presentation, and we will have closing remarks and the evaluation at the end. I'm going to now turn it over to Ron Brown, and he will take over for us. Ron?
Thank you for the introduction, Anna. Before we get into the topic for today, we'll discuss a little bit of IDOT's goal, as Anna mentioned, with the agenda, as well as some resources that are available to contractors in the state of Illinois. IDOT's goal is to provide assistance to DB firms and individuals that are interested in doing business with the department in ways that ensure equity, access, and transparency. IDOT, in accordance with federal guidelines, strives to facilitate and implement programs that can help current and future business partners open the door to doing business with IDOT. The department works toward this goal in a variety of ways, most notably through the tools available at our resource centers, the supportive services program that is executed through our partnerships with consultants who provide management and technical supportive services assistance, and corresponding supportive services programs that fall under the umbrella of the supportive services program. This support is provided at no charge to IDOT's DBE firms, to firms seeking IDOT DBE certification, to ILUCP DBE certified firms who have an IDOT contract, and to prime contractors doing business with IDOT. Some of the ways you can learn and grow with supportive services. While the opportunities for work may increase for DBE firms, it is not a guarantee. Free programs and resources support firms' goals at all phases of growth. We assist with developing technical and management skills, navigate operational expenses, connect with established firms, discover best practices for successful work with IDOT. You can visit the IDOT website to find your nearest resource center. Each of IDOT's 9 districts offer essential equipment and resources to conduct business with the agency. You'll have computer access, internet access, scanner, copier, and printer equipment, staff assistance where available, including support for DBE applicants. These resource centers are free of charge to all firms seeking to do business with IDOT. You can scan the QR code here or visit the IDOT website for a list of locations in your district. IDOT also has contract compliance officers in each district. They're accountable for the EEO and labor compliance programs on state and federally funded projects. They ensure contractor compliance with those laws and regulations governing the EEO, labor compliance, and DBE programs. Search the IDOT website for the contract compliance officer in your district. Technical and management assistance is available to DBE firms to assist with maintaining a competitive edge. This assistance is complementary to IDOT's DBE firms or to firms certified in the IOUCP that are bidding on IDOT contracts. Some of the components that are included but not limited to for technical assistance would be estimating and bidding assistance, identifying necessary equipment and resources, project site inspection where applicable, as well as assistance with the pre-qualification process. The management team may assist with bookkeeping systems and credit restoration, bonding and insurance, business and strategic plans, as well as marketing. Here is a list of the supportive services consultant team for the state of Illinois. The three main components are certification, management, and technical. Those prime consultants are listed here, as well as the areas that they cover. The Bureau of Small Business Enterprises brings innovative events to the public with three goals in mind: to share skills and become more competitive on IDOT projects, assist individuals and businesses work with IDOT and form strategic partnerships, as well as encourage the sharing of business practices, policy, and procedure changes. Each district hosts events year-round to help firms do their best work with IDOT. The link here will give you a list of the upcoming events and workshops in your area. The Today's Challenge, Tomorrow's Reward is the annual conference hosted by IDOT to provide opportunities for networking, skill building, and knowledge sharing among the vendor network. All firms doing business with the department, including primes and subcontractors, consultants, suppliers, and various partners, are welcome. The next TCTR is April 1st and 2nd at the Crown Plaza in Springfield, Illinois. You can call this number with questions if you need additional information. Some of the available programs through IDOT Supportive Services is the DBE Reimbursement Program, which offers a 50% reimbursement to qualifying firms in select categories while funds are available. You can contact the Bureau of Small Business Enterprises to discuss the criteria for the limited time funds. IDOT also has a business development program for qualifying DBEs to receive firm-specific guidance to propel their growth in the transportation industry. Each participant will receive a full business evaluation and analysis, a tailored training that may be eligible for reimbursement, as well as personalized recommendations to maintain competitiveness. Enrollment opens once per year, and up to 15 firms may be accepted annually, and the applications for the 2026 season will be open soon. You can visit the website for details on the business development program. IDOT also offers mobilization payments to subcontractors to account for the prep work and operations necessary to move contractor personnel, equipment, supplies, and incidentals to the project site, and for all other work or operations that must be performed or costs incurred when beginning work, the contractor shall make a mobilization payment to each subcontractor. It must be made at least 7 days prior to the subcontractor starting work, and it is an advance payment of the reported amount of the subcontract, not an additional payment. The sliding scale here indicates the mobilization percentage, and it will be paid to the subcontractor and then deducted from future progress payments. IDOT also sponsors the Highway Construction Careers Training Program, the HCCTP, to boost participation of diverse individuals in the industry and on IDOT's highway construction projects. There's a network of Illinois community colleges that partner with IDOT to offer training in industry, trade, and life skills. They include OSHA certification, welding instruction, forklift operation, first aid classes, an extensive math for the trades class, introduction to electrical, plumbing, and sheet metal, carpentry, introduction to basic construction tools, and much more. The employment is not guaranteed. However, the participants who complete this program do receive job placement assistance up to a year after graduation. 4 reasons why HCCTP graduates make ideal hires. They are well trained to fulfill the entry-level roles on projects, professional talent with diverse perspectives, eligible for work on the IDOT project site, as well as reimbursement via the IDOT training special provision on selected projects. Eligibility and application is open to women, minority groups, and other persons from historically underutilized populations. They must be 18 years of age, possess a high school diploma or GED equivalent, a valid driver's license, and the ability to pass a drug screening. If you have any questions during the presentation, please remember to enter them into the Q&A box or the chat box. We'll monitor those throughout the presentation. This is installment number 2 in the construction series as a follow-up to Tuesday's presentation for construction before the contract. This will be construction during the contract. We'll discuss components of contract administration, including pre-construction documentation, progress documentation, material testing and inspection, certified payroll, as well as additional workforce documentation. For the pre-construction documentation, there's a progress schedule which will list the controlling item for that contract, any applicable subcontractor items, working days, and/or completion date for the contract. Request for approval of subcontractor or the training program. That documentation is required prior to the start of the project. And as far as the request for the approval of the training program, we'll discuss that in more detail as we move along. And also material inspection documentation, including the source of the materials and the notification of the supplier of the required state inspection prior to shipping the material. This is the request for approval of subcontractor form. The name of this form is the request for approval of subcontractor. The form number is the BC 260A. This form would be submitted for any subcontractor you're requesting approval for that contract. It will list the subcontractor's name, project information, including location and section number and contract number. All applicable pay items shall be listed, as well as the contract unit price and a percent of the pay item that the subcontractor will be completing. And this form has to be completed after the subcontract has actually been executed, because that information is requested. And once this is completed and submitted, the prime contractor is acknowledging that a subcontract does exist in writing with this subcontractor. So it's important to get this completed and submitted at the pre-construction meeting for the department to review it and approve it. Progress documentation. The Equal Employment Opportunity Workforce Analysis is a summary of the workforce, the headcount, and the hours for the project staff, as well as any trainees or apprentices, and it is submitted on a calendar month to the department. There's also the weekly DBE trucking report. If there are any DBE certified trucks on the project, whether there's a utilization plan and participation statement for them or not, This form is required within 10 days after the completion of that trucking activity. It includes a description of the trucking activity, any applicable lease status of the trucks involved. The weekly trainee report is submitted to the resident engineer on a weekly basis. The applicable trainee status of the individual, and it's required for contractor reimbursement, regardless of whether the reimbursement is the standard federal rate of 80 cents per hour or the TPG rate of $15 an hour. This form is required. The employment data is to be submitted every month on this form. This is the Equal Employment Opportunity Workforce Analysis. It includes the number of hours worked on the project, the hours of employment, the number of individuals working on a project during the reporting period, and it's submitted to the Department of Transportation resident engineer by each contractor and subcontractor each month. Each contractor working on the project is responsible for this form. It's not all included on one form. And the prime contractor is responsible for securing and submitting this with their report or reports from all subcontractors. This is page 2 of the Equal Employment Opportunity Workforce Analysis. The figures that are reported in Table A should include the journeyman status, the apprentices, and any on-the-job trainees. And the figures that are reported in Table B should only include the apprentices and the on-the-job trainees as indicated. This is the weekly DBE trucking report. It shall be submitted in accordance with the special provision. The Department of Transportation is requesting disclosure of this information that's necessary to accomplish the statutory purpose outlined under state and federal law. In other words, this information is required. It's also submitted in accordance with the special provision and may be used as a constructive amendment to the utilization plan to add additional trucking firms. The contractor shall not terminate or replace the DB listed on the approved utilization plan or perform work with other forces designated for a DBE as listed in the special provision, and any amendment to terminate or replace has to be approved prior to the replacement. Most contracts that involve purchase and installment of materials will require some type of material requested or material testing and inspection. The project procedures guide is a source intended to use for determining the reasonable sampling frequency and procedures for materials used on the highway construction. The sources of the information for the inspectors include the contract documents itself. That includes the special provisions, the approved plans, recurring special provisions, supplemental specifications, and the standard specification book. Evidence of materials inspection by an IDOT materials inspector will have the Illinois OK stamp or the supplier certification of shipment of approved materials, which is usually the LA-15 form. The resident engineer is responsible for ensuring that all materials are inspected and approved prior to installing. It's understood that the resident may not perform these duties personally. However, they should ensure that the inspection, sampling, and testing is done in accordance with the instructions in the project procedures guide and in the specifications and policies. The resident will communicate with the district materials office when the work is in progress to ensure that all testing is accomplished. And they also may be asked to assist with taking random job site samples. They should be certain that only materials which have been properly inspected and approved are used in the work. Here's an example of 2 IDOT material inspection notices. If the material is not sourced from an approved facility, it can be inspected at the source and approved by the IDOT inspector. The Illinois OK stamp indicates the material was approved at the source. However, the sampled Illinois stamp indicates that the material has been sampled, not that it's been approved. So if it's been sampled and has not been approved, there will still need to be verification that an IDOT material inspector has approved the material. The supplier's certification, this is known as Form LA-15. It's a certification of shipment of an approved material for approved suppliers, and it's intended for use with materials that are tested and approved at the source by a specific lot. It may also be in batches or quantities and stored for later delivery to a job site. Some examples of that can be paint, thermoplastic, pavement marking tape, electric cable, etc. The department gives the supplier a blank form and keeps track of the ticket numbers on the form given to the supplier. And then with each shipment of approved materials, the supplier sends a completed form certifying that the material has been inspected by the department and has been approved. The completed LA-15 form includes the source and the destination of the material and the test identification for the lot or the batch. There's the field for the supplier information, the shipping or contract information, and the material description area here, as well as the supplier signature on the bottom right. Federal aid contracts require certified payrolls. The contractor and each subcontractor shall submit their payrolls to the department each week from the start to the completion of their respective work. Except that full Social Security numbers, last known addresses, telephone numbers, email addresses shall not be included on the weekly submittal. That's considered confidential personal information. Instead, the payrolls only need to include an identification number for each employee. Most often we see the last 4 digits of the employee's Social Security number, and the submittals may be made using the LCP Tracker Pro software. It's a web-based system and can be accessed at the lcptracker.com website. And when there has been no activity during a work week, the payroll record shall still be submitted with the option no work, suspended, or complete selected. For state contracts that require payroll submitted, that's governed through the Illinois Department of Labor, and each contractor and subcontractor shall submit this no later than the 15th day of each calendar month and file a certified payroll immediately for the preceding month to the Department of Labor through the Illinois Prevailing Wage Portal in compliance with the State Prevailing Wage Act. The portal can be found on the IDOL website, and payroll should be submitted in the format prescribed by the IDOL. And in addition to that, the contractor and subcontractor shall certify and submit payroll records to the department each week from start to completion of their work, just like with the federal system, using the LCP Tracker software. Additional workforce documentation for federal funded projects. If there are trainee hours listed on that project, you will complete the SBE 1146, which is a request for the approval of contractors training program. Once that is approved and you start the work, you will be required to submit the weekly trainee report form and include that information on the monthly EEO workforce analysis form. Trainee goals are set on an individual contract basis as set forth in the 23 CFR 230.111 regulation. and I believe effective in 2021 for non-federal funded projects. They include the Illinois Works Jobs Program Act Apprenticeship Initiative, and these forms are required for projects with a value of higher than $500,000. A goal is predetermined for contractors to use apprentices for 10% of the total labor hours worked in each prevailing wage classification on a project, or 10% of the estimated labor hours in each prevailing wage classification, whichever is less. And of that goal, at least half of the labor hours of each prevailing wage classification performed by apprentices shall be performed by graduates of the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program, the Illinois Climate Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program, or the Highway Construction Careers Training Program. This information will also be reported on the SBE Form 1014, the Weekly Trainee Report, as well as the EEO Workforce Analysis SBE 956 form, as well as some additional forms required by the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. Those form numbers are the OS 106, the Budget Supplement form, as well as the OS 104, which is a certification of compliance. The OS 106 form must be completed by the contractor to the best of their ability within 90 days of executing a contract with the state. Their apprenticeship use plan will be captured on this form and will be used by the contractor to certify compliance with the act and that the goal was met. These DCEO forms will be used to request a reduction or waiver in the 10% apprenticeship goal. This form is to be completed by the contractor and submitted to IDOT. However, the DCEO will be the approval authority for the reduction or the waiver request. Additional information on these forms, as well as the difference between the federal and non-federal funded workforce project information, is included on the IDOT Construction Memorandum number 92. Here is the request for the approval of contractors training program, the SBE 1146. On the top right, it includes your project information, also the name of the contractor and the craft that they're requesting approval for. And it lists the apprenticeship program approved by the U.S. Department of Labor. And number 3, you would identify what stage of the apprenticeship program that the apprentice is in and complete the remainder of the form, and there's a signature required at the bottom. This form has to be submitted prior to the start of work on the project, not before the apprentice starts work, but before the contractor starts work on the project. And this is the weekly trainee report. When training is provided in accordance with the training provision that's included in the contract, a copy of this report is to be submitted to the resident engineer or their designee with the corresponding payroll by the prime contractor and subcontractor on a weekly basis. Failure to submit these reports timely may result in withholding of payments to the contractor. They need to complete the project identification information, the name of the prime or subcontractor, the report number starting from the number 1 and consecutively on up, and the week ending date. Column 1 is the trainee name and the individual identification number. It also includes a column for the ethnic group, the type of reimbursement for the weekly training report, whether it's the FHWA scale, the IDOT TPG scale, or if there's any resulting still effective from the Mississippi River Bridge project, there's a column for that as well. The work classification of the individual, their status, the hours worked this week, and a total to date. Do we have any questions to this point?
I don't see any right now, Ron. You're good.
Okay. We'll move into some of the available resources available through IDOT Supportive Services Program. As I mentioned earlier, there's the Today's Challenge, Tomorrow's Reward Conference coming up April 1st and 2nd at the Crown Plaza in Springfield. Registration is open, and to register, you can visit this link below. And there's an app that goes with it. I think it's FeedLoop. You can download the app and complete the registration and have the access to the conference information. And there's also several categories for awards, and IDOT typically takes nominations for these categories for the Construction Trucking DBE of the Year, Architectural or Engineer DBE of the Year, Supplier or Professional Services DBE of the Year, the Prime Contractor Award, as well as the Roberto Orozco Memorial Award. Nominees would be firms that have won or worked on an IDOT project within the last few years. However, they don't have to be as long as your justification for nominating them is a good one. And for more information on the nomination, you can email Mr. Brian Hendricks. His email address is listed here with the 2026 TCTR nomination as the subject line. And the body of the email should include the nominee firm, the category for the nomination, as well as the reason for the nomination. The upcoming events and workshops for the Building Blocks of Success series will continue through April. You can register via the Eventbrite link listed here. The next workshop will be next Tuesday, February 10th, and it's the third and final installment of the construction series. This one's entitled Construction Post-Contract. You can also see some of the upcoming events for the Building Block series through the end of February. Access to the recordings of our workshop series are available on the IDOT YouTube channel. When you select this playlist, you'll have access to the IDOT Supportive Services Consultants page, which lists several topics and workshops that have been recorded and published since 2022. And you can view those at your leisure. They're a wealth of information. It's also good to use as a refresher course throughout the season. You can scan this QR code or click the link in the chat. There's one that's been posted in the chat to provide feedback about the session. And as a reminder, you'll get an email with the slide deck presentation, links to resources and programs, a list of upcoming workshops and events, as well as contact information for OBWD staff, consultants, and contract compliance officers. And with that, I'll conclude today's presentation and ask that you do register for next week's presentation for construction post-contract, where we'll wrap the series up next Tuesday. And I'll turn it back over to Anna.
Thank you, Ron. I appreciate your time and your presentation today. I have posted the registration link for TCTR in the chat. If you are thinking about registering, please use that link. And if you have any questions as it relates to TCTR or how you should register or anything, my information is in the chat. Please reach out to me and I can get some clarifying questions answered for you. I do not see any questions in the chat at this time. Please remember that you will receive a follow-up email once this concludes with a copy of the presentation and some helpful links inside of the email. So look for that here probably within the next hour. And we will give you back some time of your day Ron, I appreciate you getting on and presenting this information today. If you would send me a PDF copy of the presentation once we conclude, and I will get that added to the email for follow-up.
Will do. Thank you.
I appreciate you all. Everyone have a great rest of your day.
Thank you all.